Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening and welcome into the breakdown. What a wonderful weekend of rugby we've witnessed. A sellout at Eden Park yesterday for the first ever Women's Rugby World Cup on New Zealand soil. Chelsea Semple's coming on the program to talk about the entire occasion, the legacy and the results. We've got Ian Foster joining us on the breakdown as well to break down the end-of-year tour squad that has just been named for the All Blacks. Plus, the NPC semi-finalists have been found. The big team with a big upset over the weekend, Bay of Plenty. That's right. We've shaken things up on the panel as well. Sir John Kirwan joins us, Joey Wheeler, Isaac Boss. Great to have you all joining us. But first, let's talk about the wonderful occasion at Eden Park yesterday. JK, you were there. How incredible was that?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. What an atmosphere, a different vibe. And I was talking to someone about it, and it is a little bit of a different vibe and a different game, and I just love it. I think really exciting. I thought it was faster than the men's game, to be fair. Yeah. A lot more rugby. And I just thought it was a great occasion, especially for our wahine toa who started a bit shaky. I was a little bit worried there, sitting there, Joey, thinking, don't spoil the party, girls. But came right, and so that was good. And we'll talk about that later, I guess.
Yeah, I think the occasion maybe got a little bit the better of them at the start, all the emotion. But for me, I was amazed that I actually felt a little bit emotional for them, because looking at our wahine toa and the pride and the passion that they have for that jersey, but playing in front of the biggest crowd of their lives in such an occasion on the world stage, you could see what it meant to them. And for me, that just filled my heart. And I didn't think I'd feel that way, but I loved it. And I loved the game, like you said, JK. It was a real spectacle. The drama of that it didn't go all the Black Ferns' way. You know, I thought, we're going to give these the Wallaroos a hiding, because we have never lost them before, but they came out of the gates, they challenged the haka. All that was just absolutely brilliant. Made the occasion so special. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, that haka though, same. I got emotional during it, you know, or started getting those tingles. It was immense, and the crowd. You're right, JK. It was different. It was kind of fanatical during the game, and I was just going, "This is different than what we see for an All Blacks match or a men's international." And as the game went on, those hits, the speed of the game, it was top quality rugby, and it's showcasing the women's game. I'm looking forward to the rest of the tournament now.
Oh, it was outstanding. I also just want to say congratulations to you, Aotearoa New Zealand, for filling that stadium as well. More than 40,000 people there at Eden Park yesterday, and boy, did those women deserve it. JK, for you, you've been at Sir Wayne Buck-Shelford's tribute dinner last week. How was that for a legend of the game?
Oh, it was what was happening, you know, off the camera, just catching up with the boys, and we were talking about it before, just meeting guys that you played with and having a laugh. It really makes me so proud to have played our beautiful game, because it was actually a laugh a minute. And you know, Buck's been an amazing role model for so many, both on and off the field, so it was neat to celebrate that with him, and his whānau were there, and as you know, as you can see from the photos, you know, the Navy of his past. So he had his family, the Navy people, and rugby, and I thought, and you know, his community work with prostate cancer and stuff. So it was just a fun night, Joey.
JK, he's regarded as probably one of the toughest All Blacks that's ever put on the jersey. You told a great story off air about you seeing his. We all know about obviously the scrotum incident, but the head getting split open as well, right in front of you.
I was there,
and he just wanted Vaseline for that.
Yeah, no, I was there for the scrotum thing, and just about vomited in the bath in the front on a French tour. But this time, I was standing next to him, and I was obviously not dirty or anything, Joey, you know. And one of the Australian guys opened up his head. And I saw his brain, and then the blood started pulsating. I'm going, oh, Buck, you know, I might get dirty. But anyway, the doctor rang on, and Buck said, give me some Vaseline. The doc looked at him and said, no, mate, you need to get off the field. That's really serious. And Buck said, give me some Vaseline, Doc. The doc said, no, mate, that's a big cut. You need to get off the field. And Buck said, if you don't give me the Vaseline, Doc, they'll carry you off the field. So Doc pulls out the Vaseline, and Buck whacks it on his cut, and away we went. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, good
that is such a good story. Brilliant. Such a good story. Well, the All Blacks end-of-year tour team with 35 tough, strong men has been named this afternoon. A very interesting looking team. Take a look at this. Not a lot of changes than what we've seen earlier this year, but I suppose the major talking points to come out of this one, Anton Leonard-Brown got through 45 minutes with Waikato today. He has been recalled to the All Blacks. Braden Ennor is back in the mixer as well, not just as injury cover. No Angus Ta'a of our no Patrick Tuipulotu, Damien McKenzie, Brad Weber were another couple that we talked about potentially being back in this team, but we haven't seen it. Bossy, what do you think of this team that's been named?
Yeah, look, I think we've seen no bolters, and I don't think we could expect to see any bolters where they've come from this year. They're just starting to get momentum, a new coach coming in, so players are starting to understand the new coach. And as a dress rehearsal, this is not the time to throw guys in the mix to put all the hard work they've done in the last few weeks, or few months, sorry, at risk. So it's just those small steps to keep going ahead. Pretty much what I expected, but it's great to see Anton Brown in there, who I thought was tremendous today.
In the last couple of weeks, we've spoken about potentially new guys coming in and maybe releasing Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's, the Stephen Petr-Fetters to this New Zealand 15 that will be named tomorrow. Where do you see these guys getting game time, Joey?
Well, I think obviously the Japanese test is the obvious one, the first test on their end-of-year tour. But I also think that's nerve-wracking for me as well, because this Japanese team, I know for a fact that they have been preparing themselves all year for this one test match. They've had 2 test matches against France in the lead-up. They've had 2 test matches against Australia A in the last 2 weeks. So they are priming themselves to have a real crack at the All Blacks with the expectation that they're probably going to play maybe their B team, their supposed B team. So they're thinking, this is our one chance to knock over the All Blacks and create a little bit of history for the Japanese. And we know after what they did in the 2019 World Cup, JK, that this Japanese side, they're not a walkover like they used to be.
Yeah, I don't care, Jay.
Right?
Don't care.
What, if they lose?
No, I don't care about Japan. I think that we only have 10 test matches to go, I think. And I've been saying that for a long time. I'm with Isaac. Like, we
so
cannot
results
afford...
don't matter on this?
Well, they do, but if the players get out there and lose against Japan, then they
You won't care, you won't be saying...
No, I'll really care,
yeah.
But it's those players. For example, Hoskins Sotutu, I think, is an outstanding young talent, going to be around for a long, long time. What do we want to see from Hoskins? We want to see him go to the well a whole lot more, right?
Yeah.
Played really good against Australia, but probably got a bit tired towards the end. He needs to play against Japan, and he needs to go exceptionally well.
Yep.
Petr-Fetters needs to play, and they need to beat Japan, and they need to beat them well. And well, I mean, they'll play well Japan, and it might be 3 points. So I don't care about Japan.
But you need to see these
but we've
guys
got to see these kids out
play
there.
80 minutes.
And they've got to play 80 minutes, and they've got to win, because I'm with you, Isaac. Like, we cannot change this team. I was hoping to see D-Mac in there just because I like him personally. I was hoping to see maybe a couple of changes. But at the end of the day, if you're Fozzie, you've got to go, we've got some new coaches here, we've got a settled side, and there's just no time left.
Yeah. And I guess when you look at what they've got left, Bossy, they've got Wales, Scotland, then England after that. And you've got to think, well, if there's one test match that they're going to give these guys a crack and to actually test them, because they haven't tested them throughout that whole rugby championship, really. Bit part players have had a little bit of exposure, but in a real test match, go to the well. They're not going to get a chance against Wales, Scotland or England, are they?
And Bossy, that's the question, right? I guess, do you send, Whakatava, do you send those guys with the second side, or you take them like Fozzie's decided, and then, that's the decision, I guess.
They need game time, and they need more game time than just against Japan. Whether that's, we're guessing that he's going to throw those ones out against Japan, but they need to get put into the cauldron in away matches in the likes of the Millennium Stadium, in Twickenham, because it's going to be twice that once they get to face these teams at the World Cup. And so we have to start developing the belief we've got it in that starting squad or that group.
Especially against Northern Hemisphere teams as well, because we weren't convincing on the last end-of-year tour, and then obviously against Ireland at home, we're well below par. So, yeah, I think the only opportunity, Japan, for these guys.
No, I think Isaac's right. He's going to have to take some risk.
Yeah.
Got to put some guys out there.
JK, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's been named as a midfielder, Geordie Barrett as an outside back. Do you see those roles changing on this end-of-year tour? Yeah,
I couldn't really understand Roger, if it's true that Fozzie didn't call and say play on the wing, but we guess we can ask him. Yeah, I just didn't think it was the right thing to do from Roger's point of view, because I think if he plays on the wing, I see him as the 4th best winger at the moment. I see him as a real contender and learning his position. That's the only reason that I wanted him to play.
That's pretty generous if he's the 4th best winger, because he hasn't played there. He's played 2 games for...
No, I mean on this tour. So why would you play wing? Why wouldn't you stay at 12 and go, actually, Anton Brown's coming back? you know, there's a few injuries there. I'm just going to settle that position. That's why I couldn't understand it from his point of view, because I see him as a 12. I see him has some X factor at 12. His feet, fantastic. I think he can be world class there. And he's had a lot of bad luck as well. You know, we're talking about having to name a really solid and take no risks on the Northern Tour, but Rogers hasn't had a lot of time, and not through his own fault. So spending 3 games on the wing, I just couldn't understand, because I see him as a 12.
Well, we can ask the head coach of the All Blacks now, because we are so lucky to have the time from Ian Foster. Ian, thank you so much for joining us on your Sunday evening. It's a year out from the Rugby World Cup. You have just named a 35-man squad. You'll take 33 to the Rugby World Cup. Is this as close as it gets to your World Cup team, with a couple still to come out?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Look, it's, you know, whilst we're planning with the World Cup, you know, we've also learnt the last, I guess I've learnt the last 2 World Cups. So you always got to keep your options open in the year leading into it. So in 2015, 2019, each year we've sort of seen someone play their way in through the Super Rugby campaign that year. So, you know, options are still alive, but we're looking at building on, I guess, a lot of the combinations we've had through in the Rugby Championship, and taking that squad through and give them a different challenge up north.
Fozzie, just before you came on, we were talking about RTS. I didn't agree with him playing on the wing, and I thought you might have given them a phone call to say, can I see him on the wing? So if you did, that'd be nice if you tell us. You don't have to, of course. But I see him as a 12. Where do you see him as the All Black convener of selectors?
Yeah, look, I did speak to Alama. I said if there was a chance to put him on the wing at the end of the game, then it wouldn't do him any harm. I think what he's got out of it, JK, is it's probably just given him a different view of the game. And I think for Roger trying to learn the game, I think it hasn't hurt him from that perspective. And I think that one of the reasons that I haven't minded it is because, you know, when you're looking at picking your 23, having a midfielder who can cover the wings, also another feather in the bow. And so, you know, we still fundamentally see Roger as a midfielder, but the fact that he could show some versatility at the wing, and when you look at his league background, he's obviously played in that backfield a lot. So, you know, I thought he handled it really well, and I just think that maybe gives us a few more options when we pick our 23.
Fozzie, you alluded to that positions are still up for grabs going into World Cup year. When you talk about that, what positions are of concern for you going into next year and even this year?
Yeah, I think concern's the right word now, Joe. You know, it's you know, but I think you never shut the door from an All Blacks perspective. You always want to, I guess, we're always under pressure to look at players as they're performing, and you know, like I said, we can't predict the future about players playing out of their skin next year and sort of demanding that we look at them. But you know, overall, I think we've come into this year, we've asked some. We've put a bit of a microscope over our front row. We've put a bit of a microscope, particularly over 6 and over the midfield. And overall, I think we've got some really good answers from those 3 areas through this campaign to date. And this tour coming up is a really good chance for us to cement that. So, for example, I think the form of Shannon Frizzell has been excellent. And, you know, after a long injury, he's come back and played really, really strong and almost demanded selection in this squad, and we'd love to see him grow. I think we've seen the likes of Fletcher Newell, Tyrell Lomax, but Tyrell particularly, you know, he's jumped up a lot and sort of, and as a starting tight head, he's been fantastic for us. And then I think when you look at our midfield, well, we've had, I guess, a lot's been spoken about with Geordie, and I loved his game at 12. But I also thought David Avili's form grew as the season went on, and he started to show that triple threat game that we love with him. So we've got some good options in the areas that perhaps we had to make decisions in this year.
Yeah, Fozzie, you talk about the doors never closed and things like that, but there's also players within your squad that haven't played a lot of rugby lately. So I know you've specifically mentioned Perofeta, you'll get a lot more game time. You've got Japan and then the 3 Northern Hemispheres. How do you balance making sure the likes of Perofeta, Fakatava, Christie get a decent amount of game time on this, but you've got to get results as well? And the same with the wider squad through different positions.
Yeah, great question, Isaac, and it's never easy, that part of it. And part of being in a team is you don't always get the opportunities, for everyone. But look, certainly Stephen has. We think he's grown immensely through the last 4 or 5 months. We've loved the way he's gone about his work, and the fact that he hasn't really got an opportunity was probably not a lot to do with him, but maybe some of those early results put us under pressure, to keep the combinations growing. So, I think you'll see his name pop up in the next test, and then we'll certainly be trying to give him another opportunity on tour. But he's had 2 or 3 games back for Taranaki during the Rugby Championship, and that's been good for him. It's kept him in tune, but he's a player with a big future. And clearly, that was a selection, and like Damien McKenzie was another one in that position that was. We were looking at hard. We've got a lot of faith in Damien as well, but we really feel like we owe Stephen an opportunity to show what he's learned. And when we name that All Black 15, I guess it's a chance for Damien to come back in and to show his form in that team.
Fozzie, are you going to be sending some of the players that might not get a couple of games back to the the other side to play on the Thursday night, or do you want to keep your group together?
Yeah, look, we're going to keep a large part of our group together, but there is a bit of a plan for some players we might drop a couple of players potentially back. Like after we play Japan, we head up. There's a couple of guys at this stage we might drop into the All Black 15 team to play against Ireland, and then they might come back to us, and then there might be 1 or 2 more that go back into the Barbarians team. So, there might be a case for us to put a couple in each of those games. The All Black 15's got a squad of 28, and we also want, that 28 to have a good opportunity. So it's balancing that. But yeah, JK, we will be doing a little bit of that as the tour goes on.
Fozzie, your first game on tour is obviously against Japan. They're a team that's on the up, obviously, and performed really well at the last World Cup. What's your policy in terms of your selection? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to select your A team, or are you looking to select your A- team, or your B+ team, mate? What's your approach to this game?
Well, look, we want to pick the strongest team we can, but we've got 4 tests in a row. We've had a decent break, and we've also got some players that didn't play a lot at the end of the Rugby Championship. So you add all those components together, and you kind of get the combos that we're looking at. So there will be some players that haven't had a lot of time that will get a chance against Japan, and it's not just a one test to give people opportunity. It's also about people playing for an opportunity to play in the next 3. So. We're treating it as a standard test, and we know Japan has played really, really well lately, and they've been in camp for a long time, playing Aussie A 3 times, so they'll be ready for us. And we're coming off a bit of a break period, so that's why our camp next week in Nelson's pretty critical. It's a big week coming up.
Yeah, Fozzie, just lastly, there's a few boys not available because of injury. Angus Tavell did miss out, and he's not mentioned as being injured. I know he's had a few head knocks and a couple of neck injuries and stuff, especially on Friday night. Is there a factor in a few players like Angus that they need a little bit of a rest to get a few things right?
Yeah, it could be, Isaac. Angus, I'm giving you guys a bit of a heads up, but I've already told you about Damien. So Angus will be in the AB 15 team, and spoken to him today, and him and his family they're just taking things quiet now as he gathers information. He's in a good place, but so he will get named because we think he's a guy banging on our door, obviously, and it's a chance to have an experienced tight head up there, give him an opportunity. But if he's not right, then he definitely won't tour. And so we'll work together with Angus on making that sort of decision, because it really has to be one that the player leads that decision. And if he feels it's right to stay behind, then we're 100% behind that.
Ian, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you coming on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fozzie.
Great insights, great honesty from the man as well. So much to dissect and discuss when it comes to that interview. Where do we start? Damien McKenzie first and foremost. He will be named in the New Zealand A team or New Zealand 15 tomorrow, one of 28 players. Is he suffering from this second-year Japanese syndrome people talk about, JK?
Well, no, you leave your All Black jersey to someone else and they're going to take it. So you take that risk when you go to Japan on your financial sabbatical, I call them. And he's come back and, you know, Stephen's taken his opportunity. And so when you're in front of the coach every day and you're improving and the coach tells you to do something, you go and work hard on it. I personally like Damien because I think he gives us something different off the bench. Now, he will hate me saying that because all of us as players don't want to be bench players, but I think we missed him at the last World Cup because he's really special late in the game. He's got that X factor. He can break down a defence. So that's why I love him so much. I think he'd be amazing. But if you're thinking about a solid 10 and a solid 15, then you're probably going, well, if Stephen's improving, that's what they're thinking about.
Yeah, and agree. And I think this NPC's been good for him to get that time, but you watch how he plays for Waikato compared to what he would probably do in the All Blacks. He's leading that ship, so to speak, so he's playing a different type of role. Maybe this All Black 15, now we know he's in it, he's probably going to play that leadership role in that group as well. So it's a chance for him to keep growing as a leader. He's already a leader. But more importantly, it just gives him, maybe with better guys around him, other influence as well, to actually just worry about his own game and not everyone else.
Fozzie finally answered the question. He did tell Alama he would like to see Roger Tuivasa-Sheck on the wing. He was honest about that.
Yeah, and that's interesting for me, JK, because, you know, he only played a few games for the Blues at second five, and that's where we've seen him. But then to get thrown such late doors into the wing position, he said, you know, he can adjust to that because of his NRL background. But I found that interesting. I would have liked to have seen him get more time in the saddle because he hasn't had a lot of time in the saddle at 12.
I think he said, I'll have to have a talk to Lama because I think he did say to Lama, 10 minutes, mate, at the end of the game.
Lama
not listening to the All Black coach, mate. Bloody hell, what's going on, son? Like he said, 10 minutes, not the whole game. But no, I actually think...
I would love to see how...
No, I think it makes sense, though, Joey. The thing I liked about the response is, I get that. OK, so they're probably going to pick him on more benches in the UK than anyone else because he can cover wing.
Yeah.
I mean, like Fozzie said, ideally it would have been nice to see him, you know, play 40 or 50 minutes and then go out onto the wing. But
and you look at it too, he's coming back to an Auckland team that's probably quite settled. So, you know, you've got to take into consideration their combinations and their campaign where he might say to them, look, we want to give him time on the field anywhere. Like when you're a kid, just get me on the pitch, you know? So I think there's an element of that as well.
Saying that, I'd like to see him get dropped back into the AB's 15 a little bit too to get some more game time at 12.
But the opportunity is there, right?
Yeah.
He said that players will be switching in between two games.
Perfect guy to do that, I think.
No, I don't think he'll do that with RTS.
No way?
No, I just don't think he will.
What are the players that could switch?
I think because he's now played on the wing, I think we'll be seeing him a lot on the bench and he'll be hoping to, by the end of the tour, to give him a total of 80 minutes.
Basket, and Leicester's played a hell of a lot more at centre than what Roger has, and he's played a hell of a lot more on the wing. So those two then become competition for that spot, right? And at the moment, you've got to say Leicester is the form player if they're going to go down that angle.
Yeah, I get that, Joey. I get that, Joey. But when you look at the selection and the not sending these players already with that other side, they've made their decision. They really like the players that are in front of them, and they're going to give them every opportunity. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying at the end of it, we know, I reckon we know more about Fa'anuku than we do about Roger. So I think at the end of this tour, if Fozzie and the selection group can go, we played 4 test matches, he ended up getting 80 minutes, and boy, he was good. You know, because he's going to be the one they're going to have to make some hard calls on next year. Yes. I mean, if there's 32 going to the World Cup, there's 4 or 5 positions where it's going to be some big calls. So that's why the second 15 and also this tour is fundamental. That's why that Japanese game's so big.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to pick up on something you just said. They've found their players that they like, 35 players. How do you break into this team a year out from the World Cup when you have to drop players from this team and there's more coming back? Your Ethan Blackadders, your Joe Moody's, there's still more players to come back into this team, potentially.
Yeah, there's 5 or 6 not considered due to injury. There's a couple that are just not on form, and as already mentioned, will be down in this All Black 15. But if you look at that, there's 16 backs there. They'll take 13 probably backs, maybe 14, sorry, and the rest will be forwards, just the way they cover it. So all of a sudden, there is room to move, you know. 1 or 2 of those might be injured. In any year, there's probably about a 10% injury rate.
It is so good. Kirsty, it is the best thing ever. I've been a little bit older on an All Black tour and the young fellas are coming. I had an Inga on one tour going, what's going on? And it just makes you better. So actually, for the first time, I'm really happy. The older guys are really going to have to perform. There's guys that are on the limit and they know if they mess this Northern tour up, and we know how hard they are, then they just get the, see you later.
Cutthroat, but that is the business.
Ruthless.
That is the business, isn't it? The ruthless business of professional sport. The All Blacks 35-man end-of-year squad has been named. Tomorrow, the 28-man All Blacks 15 team will be unveiled as well. When we come back, we talk about the Black Ferns' brilliant display at Eden Park. We're going to talk about the celebration, the Festival of Rugby, and who else could pick up the title this year. We've talked about how much we were brimming with pride. How did you feel, Charles?
Oh, honestly, I'm shattered today because yesterday was such an emotional day. Just everything about it was... There were so many firsts for us as women's rugby players. I mean, obviously the first time having a home World Cup, the first time selling that many tickets to Eden Park. I mean, my whole career, that has been an absolute dream to see that happen for our women's game. And so many people you come across and you say that to, say that will never happen. And I've played games for the Black Ferns at Eden Park where there's just people scattered. You know, the crowd's not great, the marketing hasn't been done good enough, in my opinion. And the crowds haven't been good enough. So to be there last night and to see our ladies run out at a home World Cup, to lay down the challenge with that haka that they did is just absolutely spine-tingling. To have Rita Ora play, the whole day was just an absolute vibe. And you mentioned it, JK. It was like a festival type feeling. There were families out. There were just so many different types of people and crowds coming out to watch the best woman in the world play rugby. So just seeing that, there's a lot of emotions, a lot of pride, and yeah, I can't really explain it.
Was the first 20 minutes then just because of that? Or is it the combination between 7 errors in the first 20 minutes, but it was because they're still trying to find their style, or do you think it was just, gee, I've got to get through the haka, look at all this crowd, and just probably lost their way a bit? I
think there's a few different factors that contributed to that. I think in this team there's 7 players that have played at a World Cup before, so it's not a hugely experienced team. We've never played against a crowd anywhere near that size. Obviously, the pressures of a home World Cup, we've talked about it a lot, about being able to absorb that pressure and walk towards it, but doing it is a completely different story. So, yeah, look, I think the girls in the first 20 minutes obviously were probably a little bit shell-shocked and they weren't used to the noise. Australia, that's the best I've ever seen them play. The Wallaroos came out and they were ready for it, and you saw that the way they advanced towards the haka and they accepted that challenge. So, yeah, it took us 20 minutes to settle into it, and being down 19-0, I think in the crunch time of the tournament, that's not a bad thing for us because we had our backs up against the wall. We really had to feel that pressure to come back and score 41 unanswered points. Obviously, Smithy gave them a pretty big rack up at halftime, I imagine. I've been a part of a couple of those. So, yeah, for them to come out and do that, I think that's going to go a long way, the business end of the tournament, to know that when they are up against the wall, they've got the calmness and the ability to come back and get back out on top.
They were down by so much, but one thing I did notice about their game last night, that they don't kick a lot out of hand. Is that the plan going into this? Because against those better teams, the Englands, the Frances, is the territory battle and playing down the right end of the field. That's going to be pivotal, right? Yeah,
it is, and we've done a lot of work on our kicking strategy. We've had Dan Carter come in a lot to work with us, which has been really good. And there's a few different plans. I mean, if you know Wayne Smith, and he's one of the greatest coaches in the world, there's not just a plan A, there's a plan B and a plan C. So I think he'll be kind of adapting our game plan depending on who we're playing. To win the kicking battle against the England and French team is going to be tough. They do have a better kicking game, and they have for years. They're just better kickers out of hand. They get more distance, and you would have seen that in the England and French game yesterday. So to get into a kicking battle with these teams straight out of hand off first phase, and that is going to be tough. But Smithy has things up his sleeve to kind of move the back three around a bit more and manipulate them like that, and our girls are kind of working towards being able to do that against those teams as well.
Something that was blatantly obvious last night, JK, was the impact that the Sevens players had on this team.
Yeah, I thought Ruby Tui was absolutely amazing, but not in the last 50, when we were under the pump. She was amazing. She was just stepping up. I saw her just bash someone. And it was that sort of leadership at the time, I think, gave the other girls around confidence to go, don't worry. And that's what I thought. She was amazing. She did some great stuff later, but it was actually, it's okay, we're here, we're going to stay in it. And I thought that experience is probably what you're talking about, saying that the front five probably haven't played like that before. And that's what they'll need to learn. They need to take the learnings out of the first 20 minutes last night.
Yeah, I agree about Ruby Tui, and what a lot of people wouldn't have seen and that she's so great at in a team space is when, you know, young Renee Holmes made a couple of mistakes at the start of the game, and I watched Ruby go way off her wing. She probably ran 60 metres across the field to go and have a quiet word with Renee, and it's her being able to do those types of things to our girls who don't have that experience, who never played at that level. That's the stuff that you can't put a dollar on. So, yeah, those Sevens girls have played in those environments before. They've played in front of big crowds at massive occasions, the Olympics, the Com Games. So it's that type of experience that they have that is going to help this team.
And the Sevens players had a massive impact for Australia as well, didn't they? They had a big impact, Shani Williams and Benny Tiriti as well. This is the results after round one of the Women's Rugby World Cup. France doing it over South Africa. Fiji at their first ever Rugby World Cup. There were smiles, there were tears, and there were plenty of entertainment at the park as well, up against England. England, though, scoring 10 tries in the second half. When you look at the results from the first round. Yeah, no,
I saw that game. I'm more worried about France. I thought that Fiji, Chelsea, when they put it physically on the English, I thought, because I was really happy, because all I've seen is the Northern Tour last year, and I'm saying, oh, well. And then I've seen the Black Ferns play last night, and then I watched Fiji really take it to them early. The trouble is with Fiji early is they just didn't score those couple of tries that they should have to put some scoreboard pressure on. But I think that there was some really good play from the Fijians, and I think if you were sitting there like Graham Henry was watching it, you'd be going, OK, there's a few things we can attack there, Joey.
Yeah, I thought they were impressive, eh? Like that natural instinct that the Fijians bring, but probably fitness an issue for them, staying in the game 80 minutes against a world-class outfit. We know how good England are, and you need to be an 80-minute team to have a sniff against that English side. But I'm interested, what's the chat around the Black Ferns environment, because you know that you're going to come up against England and France towards the pointy end. What are you thinking on review from previous matches? Where are they weak and where can the Black Ferns exploit them and hopefully at home get the chocolates? Yeah,
I think JK nailed one of the things on the head, and that's when the Black Ferns beat England at the last World Cup and again in 2018 and 2019, when we beat England, we were way more physical than them. We could beat them up, and a lot of that was down to how ruthless our tight five were. Yeah. You know, just hitting rucks, hitting players, putting them backwards. So I think for us, seeing Fiji do that to England, and that's, you know, that scoreline doesn't reflect that game to me, because, man, Fiji took it to England up front, and when they did it, particularly in the first half when fitness wasn't an issue, that's when they'd get gain against them. So, you know, the likes of Graham Henry and Smith, they'll be watching those games, and I think they'll be in the ears of our tight five, and our players that have the ability to do that will be down in the dojo doing more of that type of work. England can be quite robotic. They're very structured. So put them on the back foot, get them going backwards, make them have to play a bit more unstructured, and that's how we'll beat them.
Right.
They play France. England and France come up against each other in pool play this weekend coming.
It's the pool of death.
It's a crazy pool, isn't it? Pool C at the Women's Rugby World Cup. But how do you see that one playing out? Would it be an upset if France beat England?
To me, it's really strange. France never look that strong to me until they play either the Black Ferns or England. They just go up and up.
Save their best.
Familiar? Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be a battle, and I think the thing for our girls is we can't get too caught up in watching that this early on, because we've still got our own games today. Leave that to Ted and Smithy and that to do that work and review those games later on. But, this weekend, I can't believe we get a game this good so early on.
Very tasty.
I hope it's Bastille Day.
Yeah.
France have beaten me twice on Bastille Day and they get all... So just tell them it's Bastille Day.
Roosters running around everywhere.
One round down, 5 more weeks before the finals. Do the Black Ferns change anything? Do they keep it consistent from here?
To me, I think they're going to keep it quite consistent. We've shown quite a lot of consistency all the way through. There'll be some girls that get a run. There's a few girls coming back from injury as well. Really looking forward to seeing Kennedy Simon back out there. She's worked so hard to be at this World Cup and as a co-captain. So there's her and Alana Bremner to come back. But there's also the one that I just don't know what's going to happen there. Aisha Leti-Anga still has to come back from injury.
Where does she fit it?
See, she's been the best player in the world to me this year, but when you've got Ruby and Portia Woodman there, that's an absolute headache, isn't it? But what a luxury.
Those great problems. How lucky.
That's why they got the professor in there to make those tough decisions.
I know.
We can't wait. Chelsea, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for your time. And we'll see you every week because you're going to be here giving us Rugby World Cup updates.
Can't wait. Look forward to it.
Nice.
Well, time now for trivia before we head to a quick break. Putting these guys to the test, your question for this week, who won the first NPC? Who won the first ever National Provincial Championship?
Is that the 1923 one?
1976.
A little bit later, 1976 was the year. Do you know? Have a little think about it, and we'll bring you the answer right after this.
So Drummond has to release it. Goes straight to Poihipi. Cut out pass. Here's Fihaki up from fullback again. Oh, low pass. Beautifully picked up by Bridge. Muthilai coming across to make the tackle. Almost got the turnover, Northland, but Canterbury are in.
Hold it there. Stacked away to the left here, Taefu. Plenty of space for Lee. A little jab in behind by Garden Basham. And the runners are coming quickly. Oh, beautifully dragged in by... And away it goes to Umaga Jensen. Slings it wide. Garden Basham drops it off to Xavier. Trying to brush his way through. Got the pass away. And Luck it is who scores the opening try of the game. Now off it goes for Tia. Delivers a beautiful pass for Tuala. He's got Weber and he's got pace. Oh yeah. He's got real pace, Brad Weber. And finally Hawke's Bay put it together. Rope. He gets the ball away from the tackle. Nice carry of a fellow up the middle. Everybody held off. Oh, then a walking pass. Turned over and they're off to it quickly to Bay Plenty. Leroy Carter. Nobody will run Carter down the 7 superstar. That's why he's on the team. That's what he can do and that's what he's known for.
No, my hockey, my welcome back to the breakdown. What a great weekend of NPC. We'll get to the results and to the semi-finalists soon. But first, the trivia question. We put to you the question, and to these guys too. Who won the first NPC? The clue, it was back in 1976.
Easy.
What a clue.
Easy. Andy Hayden, Peter Whiting, Sir Brian Williams, Steve Watt. Steve Watt used to toe kick
The only bloke
from
that
prop,
should know this is you.
Auckland.
Why,
I wasn't
Why?
even in a twinkle in my old man's eye then.
Were
I was
you?
just swimming.
Probably still.
But I'm going to go. I'm going Marlborough. I'm just going with my home province.
I'd love to go Waikato, but I'm going to go Manawatu. I think that's a little bit around their golden era.
They had a good Cowboys.
No, and no.
Oh no!
About the biggest upset of the weekend.
Hey,
Here it is. The Bay. The real Bay, I should say.
Real bad.
Bay of Plenty.
Marlborough were ninth.
Manawatu second. Oh,
Close.
Cowboy
Joey.
probably got sent off.
Yeah.
It was Waikato.
You were just saying that was Marlborough's heyday, weren't you?
No, I think it might have been 10 years later.
Bay of Plenty.
It was always Marlborough's heyday.
Decades later.
Third division, when we won third division.
And just on the NPC, I mean, it's been a wonderful competition, isn't it? Because quarterfinals over the weekend, there were so many close results that went right down to the wire. We saw that with Auckland and North Harbour. We saw that with Northland pushing Canterbury as well. Bay of Plenty, an upset over Waikato. You were there today.
Yeah, and I think it's a credit to how they've restructured the competition. Last year they had 7 in each pool, and you had an unbeaten team not being able to contest, but now we had 8 teams in quarterfinals, and they were all so close.
Yeah, or you had an unbeaten team playing a team that had won 1 game. In Southland last year in a semi,
I know, it's ridiculous. So I think it's been absolutely brilliant, and there's players that we see in these clips, like Sangster here and Leroy Carter coming back from the Sevens, they've been playing superb. These might be guys that are now bolters for that All Black 15 we talked about earlier.
Well, there's so much to play for, right, in all these teams. And that Northland game, I called that game, and it was a brilliant comeback from Northland. No one wrote them off. Everyone wrote them off, apart from those guys in that room. Like, I spoke to Matt Maddich after the game. He said one of their old boys came in and said they were really proud that they've made it so far. No, even their old boys didn't think they'd make it, but they rolled up their sleeves, took it to the dog pound, threw some punches, and came close in that last 20. It could have gone either way. And Canterbury, everyone's thinking they're the hot bet.
They can be beaten.
They have looked $1 million, but they could be tipped up. And I think you'll be plenty of coming home with a wet sail for sure.
But JK, your Auckland, they were good in the Battle of the Bridge as well. Never write them off, you say, right?
Yeah, and I think that the nice thing about Auckland, the lucky thing is we've got depth. I think when Bryn got dinged, sort of changed the game a wee bit. I never feel sorry for North Harbour, because you North Harbour friends of mine, that the Battle of the Bridge is really, really important. But they've had a great season, really exciting rugby. I thought it would be a battle up front, but I watched the team, and North Harbour would be coming off that game thinking we should have won that. Auckland hung in. I thought there was moments that would have changed the game, but that's what it's all about. And I think the depth in the Auckland squad probably got them through.
Wonder if Auckland will get their ABs again. Wonder if they'll get the likes of Aketa and Roger back for another week.
Nah.
Don't think so?
Nah.
Be good if they did.
Would you want to play?
Canterbury as well?
North. There's a Northern tour. Joey, just pop down and play for the province with your son. Nah, ain't going to happen.
What do you mean?
Well, it's not going to happen, mate. Would you want to go and play?
Me and you, right?
Yeah, probably.
So they'll protect the All Blacks, but what about the All Blacks 15 players? Will they be taken out of this competition, or will they be allowed to play?
They'll have to play. There's not a chance that they'll be able to take them out. They're still playing for their livelihoods, and every opportunity is an opportunity for them. But even all those games so close, the parochialism's coming back into provincial rugby, which I really like about it. That's the key part of it,
No, but that is one thing I've been critical of. We talk about the Northern Hemisphere. Tribalism and traditionalism is fantastic. We've got to keep growing it. I think the competition's been great because we're all back together. Everyone's got a chance. But also, it has gone down to the wire. It's been really good rugby. Has it been as defensive as probably Super or Test match? No, but who cares?
Enjoyable.
We're there for the entertainment.
That's right.
Entertainment product, yeah. And
wow, imagine that.
Imagine that. But that's always our point of difference, right, as well. We're attackers. That's
Here's
our
the point of difference right here, the three of you. Great entertainers on the show. We don't have very much longer, but from each of you, we want a bolter. I know we said that there may not be one, but a bolter for the All Blacks 15. 28 players are named tomorrow. 60 of our best in New Zealand. Who will make that team that maybe we're not expecting?
Oh, I like the look of Leroy Carter that played there today on the wing, and he can cover 9. I just think he's one guy that the ball happens around him. He could be in there.
Nice.
Lock is the concerning position for me. If we lose Sam Whitelock and Brodie Retallick in World Cup year, we need to grow some depth there. So I'm going to go with a young lad out of Otago, Fabian Holland, the big Dutchman, 2 metres 04, has been playing outstanding for Otago. So he's going to be a bolter for me.
A halfback that covers wing, mate. Only you could say that, brother.
No, it was fresh in my head. It just came from nowhere. I was like, just put me on the spot.
Hey, that's Geordie Barrett. We're just going to chuck him in.
He was actually the last player in my vision, you see, so I just blurted it out.
No, I love it.
Find your time to think. I like it.
The young guy Pugh, I just think he's been really, really good. Didn't know a lot about him. I saw him a couple of weeks ago, then I watched him again yesterday. Could be him.
There you go. You've heard it here first. Tomorrow all will be revealed. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll be back to do it all again next Sunday.